And even though I've used Zoom, I don't know how many times, I still find navigating around sometimes a bit tricky as well as finding the right buttons and everything. So you can see I'm surrounded by plants this morning. And oh, there's somebody joining here. For those of you just joining, so last week we looked at succulents, which are really trendy and easy to go and easy to grow. And I'll just show you what I did last week. And that's the wee shallow bowl. It's only about 6 centimeters tall and about less than 30 centimeters wide. I always think of a ruler. It had lots of gravel, grit, horticultural grit in the bottom, and just wee succulent plants put in. Succulents are usually low growing, but these here, there might be ones that get sort of taller and outgrow the others, and then I would take those out and replace them. But that would probably do me for a while anyway. And I noticed just sort of a quick summary around the succulents. If you notice your succulent wilting a little bit, the leaves, I've noticed that. So that's a sign that, it's not too happy. It's maybe underwatered. You don't water succulents very often. So what I've done is I've just watered a bit around that one, and I've sort of left the other ones because they look happy enough. But that's the wee planter from last week. So it's quite heavy, all those stones. So it had decorative stones on the top and your horticultural grit in the bottom. So this week, looking to set some house plants that are easy to grow again. And I'm sure some of you have great success already with house plants. So I like to focus on the ones that are quite easy to grow, and a couple of these that I have are quite good for the air environment in the house, and someone was asking about that last week. So this wee one here is, and with plant names, it can be quite confusing at times because plants often have one or two common names that they're known by, and then they'll have a Latin name, and then they'll have a plant group they belong to. So, I'm not going to go into that much because it's more of a hands-on sort of session. But this wee plant, which is a Dracaena, called Dracaena, but it's also called dragon tree. And this is a small one, and there's a much bigger one behind me, which is absolutely beautiful. So these wee plants are handy and they're easy to grow, and they're one of the top 10 plants on the wee link around your air quality in the house, which is brilliant. And a lot of these plants, the top 10 plants, it needs wee dust actually, I think this one, will improve the air quality. And some plants can improve the air quality by 60%, which I found amazing. And there's some plants that can actually remove sort of chemicals from the house, when you're using hairspray or, different products in the house, they absorb some of the toxins and chemicals from the air environment. So that wee article, if you can access that link, or just Google if you're a Googler, top plants for air quality in the house. So it's really useful. And I was just going to show you. So last week, my container didn't have a drainage hole. And this week, my container is not going to have a drainage hole, which is tricky because if you tend to overwater, I tend to underwater, which is terrible inside. Outside is different, but inside the house, I tend to underwater. So the drainage hole in a container is going to be very, very useful, especially if you tend to overwater, because plants generally, house plants generally don't like to be sitting in water. Not happy when they're sitting in water. So when the bottom of the container is sitting, the roots are just sitting in water for weeks on end, don't like that at all and become unhappy. And we sort of a we sign that they've been unhappy is maybe when the ends start to turn brown, you know, things like that, that they've either been underwatered. Mine are the wee tips go brown because I've underwatered them usually rather than overwatered. But the leaves can start yellowing if you're watering too much and they're becoming waterlogged. So we tip just before we start, if you tend to be an overwaterer, you get your plants, lovely plant pot. I've had this one quite a long time. And you can just set your plant in when you purchase or grow a plant. And what I've done, I've just put like an inch of horticultural grit. And I have a bag of horticultural grit out the back, and I tend to fold it over so nothing gets into it, and put a wee bit in the bottom. And that way, if I were to overwater that, the water will sink down to the bottom, sit in the grit, and the plant's not actually sitting in the water. So that's a great wee tip. And you can just leave that in. I actually repotted that one to the next size up pot, which I just added multi-purpose compost, and it's actually in there quite good, isn't it? Did that last week, repotted. Going into spring is a great time to repot. And if you notice any house plants and there's roots coming out the bottom, there wouldn't be for this because I've just repotted it. But before I repotted it, I saw roots coming out the bottom. So that's a sign that it's really overgrown its pot. And I've just increased the size. And I know it's hard to see the size. So that is a 12 centimeter pot that it's gone up to, probably from a 10. So there we go. There's that. So that's a good way if you're a beginner or you tend to overwater. So I'll set that over. So the wee demonstration today, and I'll have to adjust my camera in a minute, and I'm going to put gloves on because when you're using multicultural or any sort of gardening products, but they multi-purpose compost and things, just good to protect your hands, and good to wear gloves, you know, keeps dirt from getting under your fingernails as well. I usually don't wear gloves. If I'm outside, I always wear gloves to protect the hands, because touching your face and things. But I'm going to wear gloves for this today because I'm just going to probably be putting the compost in and get my hands in there. I like to get sort of messy with my plants. So what I'm going to use is a wee box today. I thought this would be something a bit different. And, you know, coming up to Easter, you know, different spring, there's all sorts of wee planters that we used to be able to get in the garden centers. And I thought it'd be nice to do something a wee bit different and just plant up nice wee planter in a box. And of course, it has no drainage holes, and it's lightweight. I hope will withstand the weight of the plants and the soil. I think it will. And I'm going to put a liner in this so that protect it from the water. And then I'm going to add a bit of grit at the bottom, just because there's no drainage hole and I don't want the plants sitting in water, just in case I overwater. Going to have a wee bit of grit, maybe an inch or so in the bottom. And the plants I'm going to use before I get going. Some wee plants here. Now, the names on these aren't correct because they're in pots that are just wee pots. So the first one is a little peace lily, a small plant, and they're great wee plants, again, for your air quality. in the house. They're very popular in florists and garden centers, and that's a nice small one. I was trying to get access to, small plants, and very difficult. I wanted sort of mini plants to make a mini planter, but that is an 11 centimeter pot. So I'm going to use that. And the peace lily sort of likes not direct sun. They can tolerate some shade, but they like bright light and a bright place, but not direct sun. Usually get more flowers. And a good way to remember when to water the peace lily. It's easy to grow, and what happens, it will droop. You'll see it sort of drooping, like it's all sad. And it needs water. It doesn't like to be waterlogged like most plants. So you just check the compost, and most, when you're looking at plants, most of the time it'll say check weekly, but I have to check more often than weekly, because the room that I have most of my plants in is southeast facing, and it gets very, very warm during the day. And it's a dry environment in here. And so the plants would dry out quicker. And then the radiator, the heating system's on a lot. And again, so the plants dry out. So I have to water about twice a week now. And in the summer, I check the plants every other day just to see. It depends on your home environment as well. And if you have a plant that's doing really well, usually just leave it there and keep doing what you're doing. But if something isn't doing well, check your watering, check the location, check the wee plant tag. This gives you really useful information. So I know last week we did succulents, but this wee beautiful, I love that. It's easy to grow, and I'm sure many of you know these because you can pick these up in grocery stores. They're very, very common because they are easy to grow and they have lovely flowers. And it's Flaming Katy is one of the names, or Kalanchoe, K-A-L, how do you spell it? K-A-L-A, I forget spelling sometimes, not my strength. Kalanchoe. Kalanchoe. So it's a lovely plant, and that will give me a little bit of color in my planter. It's nice to have a wee bit of color. And good old ivy, you love it or hate it, but it's actually really, really useful in wee planters because it softens, easy to grow, grows, the outdoor ivy, indoor ivy. It would grow in almost any environment. It's a great wee plant though. It softens your planters and it can go over the wee edges. So I'm going to use that. So I'm just going to plant this up real quick and show you, and then show you a few other wee plants as well. So I'm just going to reposition this. And as I say, feel free to sort of ask any questions while I'm doing the planting, and put in the chat box if you want any house plants that you find success with that you would recommend, that you think are easy to grow, great wee plants, or questions as well. So just put this down here so you can see. So I'm going to put a liner. I was hoping to get a clear plastic liner for this. This will be a bit noisy. But when I did my test, I had a clear plastic bag, and when I put water in it from the sink, there was holes in it, so I couldn't use it for my planter. I want a bag that's going to not leak and retain water, even though can't be overwatering, but just to protect the planter. So, and I'm going to trim this up later. I know that looks a bit unsightly at the minute. And this sort of planter is a great wee gift to give to someone. that you can sort of plant up yourself if you want. Maybe you have lots of plants in the house, and maybe even a wee spider plant and things that have made babies, or just wee plants you can get. So I'm going to put about an inch or so of horticultural grit in the bottom. Just put that in, and like I say, if I was given this as a gift, just really handy again, because a lot of people do tend to overwater, and that would just really be useful. So the plants aren't sort of sitting completely in water. And just going to put some, I've got a big container here of multi-purpose compost. So I'm going to put some of that in, leaving room for me to put my plants. And this is just from the garden center, multi-purpose compost. And we looked at this last week, but the reason why I used multi-purpose compost is that it's actually been sterilized. Oops. It's actually been sterilized, and just check here in case there's anybody trying to join or any questions. And I think it's okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay, that's okay. So, oh, and soil. Soil isn't sterilized. When you buy a bag of soil or soil from outside, you know, it has things in it that could cause sort of pest and disease in the house. So the multi-purpose compost is what you use for your house plants. Oops, maybe filling this too much. So I want to leave room to put my plants, and I'm going to trim this later, this plastic bag, because of course the pressure of the things going in will pull it down a wee bit. So just want to position my plants, and I want them slightly below the container, and I want my flowering plant more towards the front. And like if I had smaller plants, I would be a wee bit happier, but I have to go with what I've had sort of access to. When you're given a nice little gift, you do want it to look quite full. You don't want it to look like there's not much in it. Now let's just see. So there's the wee Flaming Katie. It looks quite healthy, wee root ball. And I want it to sit slightly above the container, but the soil underneath. And I'm sure many of you have, this is similar to making an outdoor container. The same sort of idea. With an outdoor container, I would put some slow release fertilizer in. For a house plant, I'm not, because I tend to remember to feed my house plants every Friday, Feed Friday, and I use houseplant food. So I'm just going to stick with that. And a nice wee gift is to give some houseplant food along with, you can see we houseplant food, and it tells you how to mix, 5 to 10 drops to half a liter of water when you're watering. And that's a nice wee gift to give someone if you're giving them a wee planter or a house plant, so they can take care of it. So you can see leaving space around, a little bit of space, and I'm going to fill in, just going to take some compost, and there's a gap. I'm going to make sure there's compost filled in all around the plant. Don't want my plant sort of sitting without compost all around it. And then going to put the peace lily sort of at the back, and then I'm going to have May ivy sort of coming over. Let's see, this side like that. I want it to look, you want it to look nice from all angles. And this is just 3 wee plants. Let's see here. There's the root. Oops, the soil falling out, but I wanted to show you the root system. Nice, healthy looking root system. And it wasn't coming out the bottom of the container or anything. Nice, healthy, small plant. And just fill in around the edges again. I do tend to make a bit of a mess, which I'll have to clean up after. Now, let's check the positioning and move things over. So you can sort of see what's happening here at the minute. And the last one I'm going to put in is the ivy. Other plants you could use in a wee planter this time of year. Your spider plant, your little miniature sort of dragon plant trees, the wee succulent planter. So just before I put the soil in, you can sort of see that's a lovely wee planter. Someone would love to get that and just fill in a bit. And you want to make sure that no roots are exposed and that you're filling in all around the plant and pushing it down. And it's quite messy, but I push it down. I don't want any air pockets. And it's the same with outdoor planters. You don't really want any air pockets. So I'm going to reposition, push down so that that is coming over the edge, and just check that. And that looks pretty good. I could go and add a wee bit more soil later, but the idea is the soil is the same level as the top of the plant. The plant isn't pushed down lower than the level they were to begin with. And there's soil filled in all around the plant. So I just shift that out of the way. So what I'm going to do now is tidy up and cut the wee plastic away, just to tidy it up. And then I'm going to add a wee ribbon. A lot of us have ribbons sitting around sort of the house. And wee decorative things that you can pick up, and even at the grocery store when you're there. So I'm going to do that. And while I'm doing that, if anyone does have a wee question about these plants, or generally about house plants, feel free to ask. These are my gardening scissors, so they're actually not the best sort of scissors to be cutting away the plastic, but you get the idea. Basically, I want to cut that away and hide it. And ideally too, we clear plastic would have been idea, but it's actually hard sometimes to get clear plastic. And I wanted to make sure that there wasn't going to be any leakage, especially as a gift. The last thing you want is somebody setting this down on a table and, you know, moisture's coming through and ruining their table. If you're like me, you have a set of scissors for all occasions. I have one, of embroidery scissors, and then I have gardening scissors, and then I have ribbon scissors, paper scissors, sticky scissors for cutting sticky things. When you do a lot of arts and crafts and things, they tend to have lots of scissors.
Kelly, I have a question, Kelly.
Yeah.
Hi. Is it best to keep them away from full sun in the house?
Most plants generally do not like direct sun, which means sitting on a windowsill and the sun coming in, because even though most houseplants like some light and some warmth, this direct sun they tend to not like, and eventually a lot of them will die. They just won't like the conditions, and it can scorch their leaves. So even this wee plant, which is a succulent, which is a lovely wee plant, it loves sun, but even it can scorch if it's sitting on a windowsill facing southeast, where you're getting that direct hot scorching sort of sunlight.
Yeah. What about the aloe vera plant? I found that it just hated the sun. I have to keep it on a north-facing window. It likes the light, but not the sun.
Yeah, the aloe vera. In fact, I'm meant to bring down. I have aloe vera upstairs because I found the same thing. I had put an aloe vera in the kitchen window, and it hated it. It turned terrible color, didn't look healthy. And I have some plants. It's very easy to make additional plants from your aloe vera. It just does that naturally. But the ones that I have in sort of a west facing room are doing really, really well. And at the minute, I only need to water them once a week at the most, but they don't like to sit in water. They like good drainage. So they're a type of succulent, and they're one of the top plants for the air quality in your house. So they're a very good plant to have, very easy to grow, but know that most plants don't like to sit on a hot south or east facing hot windowsill. That it's just too hot. They like bright light and sun, but not direct sun generally for house plants.
Yeah.
Which is tricky, really tricky for our climate. Isn't it? Because if you have a nice sunroom, you usually want your nice sunroom to get that direct, to be sort of southeast, sort of facing, south facing. And the sun will come in and be nice and warm, but it's hard to get the right plant for the window position. Cacti and succulent are good choices. They can take that direct sunlight. And if anybody does have a plant that does fantastic on a south facing, really hot window, that'd be great to know about. So yeah.
Kelly, I have a house plant. It's one of the top 10. I know it starts with A, and I had it on the windowsill, and it's been going really well for really 18 months. But now it's gone sort of brown, and yeah, I moved it from the windowsill when it was starting to deteriorate. I don't know whether I can show it, or I don't know whether would it be okay to show it to you just on the screen here? Just
yeah. Have you got it right there?
Yeah.
She's going to grab it. I hope it's a healthy one. It's probably got a wee.
There it is.
Is it a healthy? Let's see.
It's the one, with the wee, you see the wee, it's similar to the peace lily, but there's a name for it. It's in the top 10 house plants. But look, it's going all brown. Leaves are going yellow.
What sort of pot? What sort of plant pot have you got it in?
I've got it in that there, just with I probably need to. There's no root. There's some roots coming out of the bottom, so I might, as you say, I might need to repot it. But it seems to be going all brown here near the.
Yeah, is it getting scorched by the sun? is it right out
Yeah,
the window?
it was in the window, but I've had it. I have had it for about 2 years, and I loved it. And I don't know. I'll try repotting it, like you say. Maybe it's too small.
Yeah, do you know, I find houseplant, like I say, if something's doing really well, I've had plants that do really well, and then all of a sudden that they're not doing well. And if they're in the same position they were in when they were doing well, a lot of things, the room temperature, the amount of heat. I know at the minute because we're in the house a lot more, we're turning on the heat a lot more, and it's sort of been winter, so the heat has been on a lot more, because normally, a lot of people maybe would have been, out of the house during the day and the heat would have been off more, and so the temperature in your home could be a lot different than it used to be, because maybe we were going out a lot more. So I have found that the house is a lot warmer, and the plants have become unhappy when they were happier before.
Yes.
So some of that is the heat and the amount of heat that may need watered more. It's hard to know because, like I say, I tend to underwater, and I know mine need watered more because the house is so warm, and the room that I have them in is warm as well, and the heat's going all the time. So there's a lot of things that affect, the house plants, the amount of water. They don't like sitting in water. So if you're one that overwaters and you're letting your plants sit in water, you have to dump that water out or put some grit in the bottom, so the plant itself isn't sitting. If you're not feeding your plants regularly, so going into spring, summer, most plants want to be fed monthly, some every 2 weeks. So start to feed regularly the house plants with your houseplant feed that you can get. And then if they're getting scorched by the sun, they won't like that either. So just, if the wee leaves are turning brown at the ends or something's changing, yeah. But the main things, overwatering, underwatering, and direct sun, and just the heat of the house, which is the watering is linked to, are the most common problems that we get with plants. Yeah. But I think you could probably save that wee plant. It looks like it's, to start doing what you can now. And it was so one wee tip around seeing if we have a wee plant. So this was in quite a small pot, and I said I repotted that last week. But if you can scrape away some of the compost. So I might repot that one more time, maybe 2 more times every 2 years, every year for some plants, just check and if roots are coming out. But at some stage, I want to stop because I can't keep going bigger and bigger pots forever. So you could scrape away some of the compost from the top and put some fresh multi-purpose compost on, which will help it, but also just making sure you're feeding your plants regularly as well, because they need water, they need nutrients, they need warmth, and they need light. It's just the levels is what's tricky. So you can still see my plastic, but what I will do is tidy that up a bit. I could put decorative stone on it. The downfall, which would look lovely, and I'll set some here, but the downfall of putting sort of decorative stone, and that would really make it pop. Put some in a wee corner so you can see. But with house plants and the amount of heat that they're getting, wouldn't that look lovely to have stone sort of all around it? The downfall of doing that is with the stone, it's much harder to see if your plant needs watered, because a good way to check if your plant needs watered, is to fill it. For most plants, and it will tell you on the wee houseplant tag that you get when you buy a wee plant in a pot or in a container, but it will say, how much watering, and it'll usually say light, but not direct sunlight. and it'll usually say check. The soil, wants to be moist for some plants, but not dried out completely, except for succulents. And so you usually fill the soil and know when to water it. When it's getting dry, you'd water it. But when you have wee decorative stones, it's a bit harder to do that. So that's sort of the downside. So what I'm going to do, just to show you a way, and I do like those stones. I think I will fill that in because it's quite nice. It kind of looks funny just with one wee bit, but I just wanted to show you that it has a difference. And then I have to tidy up my plastic as well. And I could sort of hide that with the stones. But for the decorating, this is a ribbon now. Some people have wee ribbon in the house. You can get ribbon. So what I thought I would do to make this a nice little decorative planter, put a wee bit of ribbon around it, and I've chosen pink because of the wee pink flowers. And what I've done, just to make the job easy, is little glue dots that seem to be everywhere now because there's so much crafting going on with people, for lockdown. But I've just stuck some glue dots, one in the middle and one on each end. So just check what I think is going to be the front. Yeah, I think that there with the ivy will be the front. So I'm just going to put the middle, taking that the glue dot, and I see my rib is getting dirty because I have compost. But I'm just going to stick the ribbon right in the middle with the glue dot. And I have a glue dot at each end, the back, and all I do is stick that down, and it just makes it quite an easy job. And you can get these, made up in the garden center and all, but it just shows you can do it yourself. So that's a wee bit dirty just because of a messy table. So normally, once you have your planter planted, you sort of clean your wee table and have it all nice and clean, and then you can do your decorating. So that is just how simple it is. Put a wee bit of ribbon, and already that looks quite nice, doesn't it? You can, I thought a bit of height, something. See, when you get a wee planter in shops, they usually have something stuck into it to give a wee bit of height. So this is skewer. Most of have a skewer in the house, and I thought I had these wee butterflies. If you have kids or grandkids, sometimes you have these wee sticky, felt things in the house. They're in a lot of the shops, like the Tesco and different places as well. But I thought I would just make a wee butterfly. So all I need is my skewer, and I've put a wee sticky dot on it just to give a bit of extra stickiness. And then these wee butterflies are actually sticky. So it's just what you could get access to at the minute. So just taking off the wee sticky label, and I'll just stick that down onto my skewer. There's all sorts of wee things for Easter. You can put a polystyrene Easter egg onto your skewer and stick in 2 or 3, maybe 3 wee Easter eggs. I think would be really nice. I'm trying to get that wee sticky thing off. There we go. So these were sticky butterflies. So all I have to do is stick them in between the skewer, and then look at just putting that in. But as a wee gift, isn't that nice to have a wee you could put that whatever height you want. You could do 2 of those if you wanted. And then, you know, even if you had a wee bit of ribbon, you could tie that down and have that sort of coming off, or tie a wee bow, whatever you fancy. But you could have something like that, or a wee bow, you know, coming down. So you just wee decoration for your piece. And the wee things, there we go. And then if you had your wee flowers or butterfly or whatever, you could find something just to put on the front of your container. So I think I might just do that. That'd be a nice wee special, making it just like it's special and like you've bought it in a shop. So again, these are like little felt decorative embellishments that would be for crafting or card making, but it's amazing, you know, the likes of the grocery stores and things, what they have now. And just put that on there in the middle. And that sort of shows you sort of what you can, wee thing that you can make for a gift or for your own little Easter display or spring display in the house. So it's cute, isn't it? And I think I will put the stones on it, but I'll tidy up that wee plastic bag. I'll get my good scissors and cut that down so you can't see it. Put my wee stones on top. And those are just decorative stones. You get those in garden centers or shops, B&Q in different places. You can get all sorts of decorative stones, small bags or large bags of them. So I tried to see the time here and how we are doing, and just if anyone has any other questions that they want to ask. We've got a few more minutes. Feel free, and if you don't, I do have some other wee plants I can show you as well. Hopefully everyone can access the wee article on the house plants that are good for the air environment. I can't remember who asked that last week, but I'll just set that to the side there. Remember last week we talked about the snake plant, mother-in-law's tongue, but it's one of the top plants, easy to grow because it's a succulent. You let it dry out completely, and then I hold that over the sink and water it. Although most plants do like room temperature water, so actually keep a wee bottle or something, fill it up, let the water become sort of room temperature, and I use that for watering. But I do like my succulents, I like to hold them under the sink once a week, roughly this time of year. Let the water run through, and then that's it. Doesn't sit in water. It's great for the, it purifies the air, great for the home environment, easy to care for because it's a succulent. And these wee pots have a drainage hole, so which are absolutely fantastic. And this came from IKEA ages ago. I was going to paint this and decorate it, and I never got around to it. So I thought it's a great wee pot for the snake plant. And then another plant, your spider plant. And I know spider plants are very easy to grow, and you know, they make wee babies, and it's easy. You know, they get these wee stems that come out, a wee baby on the end, and you can just sort of peg the baby down into the soil, and then you'll get a new plant. And once it has roots, you cut it and put it in a wee pot, and you can easily make new plants. But they're in the top 10 plants for the air, to clean the air in the home. And also a top plant for easy to care for. And don't they look lovely? and they can tolerate some shade. And if you were to put this on a windowsill, it wouldn't like the direct sun, and you'd find the leaves, the variegation, the lovely stripes of the leaves would start to fade. So it needs light, but away from direct sun to keep the lovely stripes, the lovely color in the leaves. So few replants. And next week, we are covering an outdoor container. And actually, you could almost use something like that as an outdoor container weave, but you know, we'll look at that. The wood, you know, wouldn't last that long, wouldn't be great. Of course, those house plants aren't hardy, so we couldn't put that outside. But the weed planter itself would look cute, wouldn't it? Sort of on a step. But plant up a nice planter for outside next week, and I'm going to put might sort of look at wee bulbs for summer as well, depending on what I can get access to. And then the following week, I'm looking at alpine plants, and I love alpine plants because they're easy to care for, and there's such variety. So there's something a wee bit different, and you can get all sorts of lovely alpine. Well, hopefully I can get, if not, I'll be out cutting some and digging them up from the garden, but hopefully have access to the garden center and all. And it's sort of like the things that are in trend, you know, the succulents and the wee succulent bowls that I showed you and did last week. Oh, got this wee container. Now I haven't planted these. I'm sort of looking, I'm thinking I might go with just sort of more greenery for one of my planters. But these wee planters with your bases, like we used to see those, I think, years ago, but they're all back in style now with wee sort of raised planters. So that's on my to-do list. I'm gonna plant that up similar to the other. I'm gonna put some wee bit of grit in the bottom, and I'm going to plant that one up today just to have peace lily and wee palm, parlor palm, and the parlor palm and the peace lily can tolerate some shade. So they want some light, but they can tolerate some shade as well. So they're handy wee plants, and nice for just some greenery and just the health. You know, you feel so much nicer, I think, around plants and having plants in the home and in the garden. So I hope you have learned some wee bits today, and I want to thank you very much for coming along, and I hope to see you next week when we do the outdoor planter. And feel free if you have any questions. I know, I see, can you post the link again? Okay, I'll post the links, because I think what happens is if you come on to Zoom after the link has been posted, it doesn't show to you. So I've two wee links about plants, and I'll just put those in the wee chat again. One's 10 great plants for the air, clean the air in the home, and the other is just sort of easy to grow house plants. So I'll just post that again. And you can download, discovered this a couple of weeks ago. Oops, that's the same one going on. You can download the chat. So if you, or you can just click on the link and then you could read that after, or you can download the chat as well so that you can see anything that's sort of been discussed. I think the other wee article is plants for lower light in the home. So hopefully that's it now. The wee links. And I'll just go through the chat. So there's somebody from Florida was here today. That's very interesting. They were saying in the chat bar there, somebody from Florida. So we're sort of near the end of our time, but funny somebody's from Florida because I lived in Florida for a long, long time. And if you're wondering about my accent, it's American, but I've lived here for over 25 years and settled and love it here in this beautiful country, especially when the sun's shining. So that's so funny that someone was here from Florida today. You never know what's going to happen on Zoom. So thank you very much. Any other tips for plants to buy to do the same for weed planter? The Kalanchoe succulent is a brilliant weed plant. Look at the tags. Try to get plants with similar conditions. So if this, there's weed tags on plants. So if it says it likes a sunny spot, try to get 3 weed plants that like a sunny spot, or if something can tolerate shade. The ivy and the peace lily can tolerate more shade than the Kalanchoe succulent. So, and I would even position the flower of this plant towards the light, and those two maybe towards the back. But as long as they get some light, even though they can tolerate some shade, the ivy and the peace lily, they still like light. So this is a good planter for a light position. So yeah, just if you're choosing weed plants, just look at the weed tag to try to combine 3 plants with similar conditions of light or shade. And you should be okay that way. A wee bit of grit at the bottom is always just a handy thing to do. So I think that is all the wee questions in the chat bar. And just want to thank everybody very much. And hopefully I will see you next week. And have a great weekend and hopefully get out into your garden. So thanks everyone. And I will see you next week, hopefully.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Bye.